Greetings, Moonlight Citizen. This is your man on the moon here with the newest episode of Moonlight Kingdom Podcast. Episode 12 will focus on the newly released Greta Gerwig directed Margot Robbie starring Barbie movie. I am joined by my female friend as this movie can only truly be tackled by the perspectives of both a man and a woman as we see the, dual sides of the coin right now, right here.
To talk about this movie here. It
Okay,
has the world on opposite sides. I literally watch a conservative woman say that this movie is dividing us according to sexes or something like that. Like the patriarchy hasn't been doing that for, centuries. But Barbie did it. Groundbreaking.
great film from Greta Gerwig, master of movies where pretty white girls go through quarter life crisis.
Okay. Obviously Barbie does have its bad sides, the unattainable body standards, the mostly white representation for many, many years until they decided to, sprinkle some diversity on that shiz. But I think overall, despite the, hiccups here and there, it's, I don't know, like, I'm gonna explain it from my point of view. Barbie has been a part of my childhood. It's a part of who I am. It's definitely, contributed to who I became as a person, a boss babe that can do anything and everything if she puts her mind towards it. So yeah, I think that's a great message for girls out there. And I think that if they keep developing that message and those core values, they could be great, amazing, iconic.
Yeah, and then you get I mean, people watch this movie and they draw the correct messages from it, and there are those people who draw the wrong messages from it, but the studios look at the success of a movie like Barbie and you just know all they're going to see is, wow, this movie about a toy made so much money, let's make other movies about toys, surely they'll make the same kind of money.
100%, but I feel like most people that watched Barbie didn't get the message. Like even women that watched it, and I get that it was kind of, it was rushed in a sense, and you really have to dig in there to find the plots, along the way. But I think the message of, when girls are born, they exist in this naive, perfect world, that emulates Barbie Land, where, we cuddled and we're not exposed to the dangers of the world. And then once we do grow up and we start experiencing challenges and all of these hindrances um, in terms of our sex, where we can't do certain jobs, be expected to behave or express ourselves a certain way according to female, very traditional female body standards and behavioral standards. Yeah, so I like that they, depicted that whole transition from being in Barbie land and being in that naive perfect world to going into the real world that Barbie did, where she had to face the patriarchy and what it means to be a woman in this patriarchal society.
Hmm. Well, I will give the movie props on a lot of things. One of them being that it's not just a Barbie story. I mean, yes, she is the main character. Yes, her name is on the title, but it's not just her story. It's a Barbie and Ken story. And rather than him
I
just
do love them, and I feel like they represented me, different kinds of women and different parts of women, like mothers and grandmothers, and the sacrifices they made for their daughters and children alike. And yeah, so I do appreciate that. The Knuff movement is a bit annoying, but again, men acted like how they act with us about anime. Like, like, oh, you watch anime, name the number of times that Naruto blinked in the whole of the series. It just like they just came into a space that they're not welcomed in. And I'm not saying they're not welcomed in it, but they came with their toxic masculinity and just completely destroyed the message of Barbie and who the actual target audience of the movie is. So, yeah, like obviously men can learn a lot of things from watching the movie about the challenges of women, about how it's important to rather strive for individuality and developing ourselves as a person rather than following traditional and often toxic gender identity stereotypes, like men are strong, men have to be successful, men have to be unemotional. So I think definitely, but I don't think there should be a space for any toxic masculinity or just being on the Barbie trend because you think it's popular and you want to just, be in it. It's not for you at the end of the day.
Oh, that's one way to look at things. I mean, like in something I noticed with the film, I was saying like it's not just a Barbie story. It's just a Ken. It's a Ken story as well because we do see a lot of his character and like the things that like are affecting him. Cause in that moment in the beginning where Barbie is like, well, like he has to like spend the night, and she's like, nah, that can't happen. Like it's girls' night, and the way he says every night is girls' night, cause like you can see like it's kind like he understands, but that doesn't mean it doesn't bother him, cause deep down, it like it's they circle back to it in the end, cause it's supposed to be Barbie and Ken, not just Barbie or just Ken, cause like Barbie can exist on her own. She can't exist without Ken, but Ken, as the way he saw it, cannot exist without Barbie. So for her to
Oh,
like,
100%.
yeah,
And it like kind of represented toxic, relationship dynamics. And I always say this that white men in the world have always relied on the oppression of women and POC, and they've literally built this entire patriarchal empire on the backs of us. So I think that was well depicted in the movie where, yes, Barbie had her own life, she had her own space. Like Ken, the only way he could find a way to make his own space is by taking it away from Barbie instead of, going through this journey of finding out who you are as Barbie did and, what you like, what are your core values and beliefs and, creating the space for yourself rather than just, stealing it from somebody else. I think that was well depicted.
yeah. Though I must say, Barbie Land went to pot really fast. Like, surprisingly fast. What the hell? Seriously, like the movie, I will. That's the one thing where I'm like, okay, this is a bit of a reach. Like, movie expects us to believe over the course of less than a day, Ken and a bunch of books, Ken, armed with nothing but a bunch of books, went to Barbie Land, convinced all the other Kens to take over, and made all the other women subservient in less than a day, armed with nothing but a bunch of
100%.
books.
The patriarchy at the end of the day is a long-standing system that has been oppressing people for, centuries, and, they've worked hard at it to keep it maintained and developing. So, yeah, I think that is a bit unrealistic. Like, I think there would have been more of a fight.
Yeah. Though it goes some way of showing that this world, as perfect as it may seem, isn't perfect. Because any world that can be like totally overrun like this in less than a day, like, nah. It. Though you can
100%.
you can
Yeah, there
explain
was
it.
a flaw at the beginning, where Barbie was she had a perfect life, but she was still having these different thoughts to her sisters, should we say? So I think there is a flaw in it, and that's actually, I think, spoken about in the ending line of the movie, where she says, I'm here to see my gynecologist. And most of us thought, okay, she was going in for a job interview and those, Like it was a shocking, line, but I think it's just such a human line that she wasn't put into this position where she had to go to a job interview and be this boss bee that could do 1,000 jobs and be whoever she wanted to be. She was just a girl going to a gynecologist appointment, and she wasn't under that pressure to be an inspiration for girls as Barbie is. She was just, a human being learning how to be a human being, and I think that was the flaw in Barbie Land, and that final line really speaks towards it.
Like it, I kid you not, man. It took me a second to like properly understand because I too was thinking, oh, okay, surely she's going in for a job or whatever, and then she goes, "I'm here to see my gynecologist," and the movie just ends. As the credits was running, I'm like, wait, what the?
No.
Oh.
I like. And then they like immediately just played, Nicki Minaj, and I was vibing. So I didn't really have much time to think about it, but like I think that Greta Gerwig, she really balanced humor and seriousness in this movie. It was a serious movie that spoke about aspects of feminism and the woman experience, but I think it did it in a really fun and enjoyable way and a very emotional way. So yeah, it was a great ending.
There was one
And
you mentioned just having the moment and then immediately cutting to Nicki Minaj's song. That is a problem in the movie that props up at the worst time because there's this moment where um I can't remember her name, so I'm just gonna like I can't remember her name, but like she was the mom, the teenage girl's mom. She had this like empowering speech about how like you're supposed to be pretty but not too pretty. You're supposed to be like skinny but not like
yeah,
want to be skinny. And then she has a whole speech, and rather than letting that speech linger for a few seconds and give people something to think about, also give the characters something to think about, like 2 seconds after she said it, the other Barbie goes, "I do remember I wrote that book." And then everyone else
no,
just starts clicking. It's like, my problem with that isn't the speech, it's that the speech was said, because the speech was
it's too
good.
rough.
The speech was said, and then it was immediately moved on to something else. Like, give it time to breathe. Like,
No, 100%. The movie was totally rushed, and I think that's why the meaning was a bit lost. When it comes to all these analyzers out there making their big bold statements about the movie. But yeah, I think it was a great movie and a great idea, but I think they tried to fit too much into it all at once, and they just rushed the movie a bit, and that's where the plot and the main themes got lost. But yeah, all movies have their faults, their points of improvement.
yeah. Also, the business dudes from Mattel took forever to show up. Seriously, in the time it took them to get from the because in the movie it's established to get from the real world to the Barbie world, you gotta go on a boat, you gotta ride bicycle, you gotta go on like the car, whatever. That's established. Okay, we get that. And the way the movie frames that, it takes like a day. But in the time it
Yeah.
took Will Ferrell and them to get there, like Ken had taken over, Barbie got kicked out of a house, they rebooted all the women, the Kens had their beach off, and the patriarchy the matriarchy reestablished itself, and then they showed up. Like, that took place over the course of several days. Like, it took the business dudes several days to show up, and when they did show up,
Maybe
they
it's
totally
a
forgot the
metaphor for how
yeah.
long Mattel took to, solve some
Catch
of
up with the
their
times. Yeah,
rather patriarchal issues and lack of diversity issues. That's what I'm saying. Maybe. Who knows?
maybe. Yeah, could be. Though, what was this? I don't know. They want to say the movie wants to have this idea that the real world is vastly different to Barbie Land, and like there are many moments that show that, but there are also moments where it's like, oh no, the world is also very similar to Barbie Land because Barbie and Ken get arrested twice and like are out the same day for no other reason than the people at the station, like, I don't know, they're just in awe of Barbie in her attire and everything. Just like, wait, what do you? Why? It's just I don't get it.
I think it kind of like, did you ever play with dolls or action figures when you were younger? I think it kind of like, embrace that imagination aspect. Like when, you made a whole plot line for your dolls and they had this like whole big storyline, but like nothing was really realistic.
They
And,
they they hinted that at the beginning of the film, like right after Bobby wakes up, when Helen Mirren narrates like you don't ever see no, like nobody wants to see like Barbie walking down the stairs or going out the door. So that's why it explains why she's able to glide all the way down to the car, because when you would play with your doll or your action figure, you really wouldn't have them walking down the stairs or anything. You would just move them from like the roof straight
I
to the
used to,
bottom.
but that's just because I'm a perfectionist.
Nah, you're just weird. Like, no disrespect, but you're just weird. You'd have.
Listen, okay, I was very organized with my dolls. All the things were put away. It was neatly arranged. Yeah, and they were both probably had OCD. The main dolls I used to. That's their whole character bio, by the way.
Mm.
Yeah, they probably were OCD ridden maniacs. But yeah, I'm a bit crazy. But other than that, yeah, so I think like the whole movie kind of like, embraced that whole imagination, make believe kind of elements that was a big part of our childhood and our play. So that was kind of cool. I understand how they tried to like, incorporate that. I think it was a bit far-fetched, especially in the real world.
Yeah.
So
There were also that thing about the teenager wasn't the one who needed the help. It was the mom. You knew that was coming the moment like Barbie showed up and the teenager like shoot her away. You immediately knew like, oh, it's the mom who's the one. Dude,
100%.
plus yeah,
Like
yeah.
like someone like one of my mother friends took her daughter to watch Barbie. Think it's gonna be about dolls and Barbie and pink and glitter. But then she realized halfway, wait, it's about me. So I think that was a big experience for many people who did watch it. And I say that it's not really a kids movie. But like, is Barbie really popular with the kids or, the little girls of today? I don't really think so. I think they're more advanced now. They don't have time for that. And I think this kind of like reignited, the torch. But I think it was more aimed at, the true lovers of Barbie, my generation, millennials, Gen Zers, who did grow up with Barbie and who, would really resonate with the story. So, yeah. So it was shocking that people brought their kids. Because, like, it was mostly like teenagers and people my age at the cinema.
Yeah, I agree. Realistically, because when you think about it, that's who this movie's for. This movie is not for like, I don't know, 8-year-old girls and stuff. Like, why would they watch a Barbie movie? Like, 8. This movie isn't for them. If they want to watch a Barbie movie, there's plenty of those. There's plenty of like animated movies that
100%. Yeah. The animated movies are like a big part of my childhood. I will always say that my favorite series is Fairytopia and Mermaidia. Some people would disagree with me, but it was the prettiest. And, the wings were like top notch. And like I had that doll, and she could change her wings and everything. But yeah, so I get that there was kind of a divide in, like the age and the target market. But like, yeah. And I don't ever think it was marketed towards children. Like, do people think that like Pink and I don't know, like, this grown ass Barbie is, I feel like it's too genderized. Like, are you supposed to leave those things behind when you grow up?
On the subject of like the Barbie, oh, I don't think so, but like on the subject of those animated movies, you mentioned like Fairyland. I remember seeing that when I was younger. It was
It's
alright.
Fairytopia. Get the
Oh,
name right.
I haven't seen it in a while. All right, it was like a decade ago. Cut me some slack. Fairytopia, whatever. So as it was, thing is that's the thing with these movies, like the animated movies. They're all right. They're not. They're by no means a masterpiece. It's like I mean it's all right. Yeah.
First of all, Fairytopia is about Alina, a wingless fairy who had to overcome this little defect she was born with and save the whole of the fairy kingdom by herself, no wings. I mean, sure, she had Bubble, but he was just there, for fan
Yeah,
service.
the
I don't
little
know.
blue and pink
But yeah,
head.
she's a total icon, and I will not have you slandering her name.
No, I remember the sequel. I prefer the sequel.
Okay, well, yeah, Magic of the Rainbow was, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really like Magic of the Rainbow. It was a bit like a fairy school. Like, okay. Like, sometimes you just need to end, and just adding little snippets to continue the story isn't gonna work.
Yeah. Though with in regards to like the Barbie films, it's just like it seemed like there was so with some of these, it seemed like they were throwing things at the wall to see what would work. Cause one had Barbie as a fairy, another was Barbie and mermaid, another was Barbie as one of the
That's the whole point of
Musketeers,
Barbie. That Barbie can be anything and everything.
Barbie in space.
She
Just
was a mermaid, sure, and she was a fairy, but she was also a superhero. She was also a pop star. She was also a scientist.
I don't have a
She
problem
was
with.
also a fashion designer.
I don't have issue with those. The one I have issue with is probably because it was the most disappointing to me. Like the one I had issue with is like Barbie in space, not because of the idea. The idea is a good idea. The problem I
It's
have
not
with that,
Barbie in space. It's Barbie and the Starlight Adventure #1. Get the name right if you're gonna slander that movie. And you know what? I kind of liked it. It was very futuristic and very different to what Barbie usually is. And the pink was amazing. It was really giving.
well, I was saying the one that it bothers me because the premise actually seems pretty good. Like almost not like a Barbie movie. Just because the premise for
Okay, fine. Maybe I spoke too soon.
like I'm trying to say this is that it seemed like an interesting premise because it wasn't your typical Barbie story because like it's like the way I saw it, it was like, oh, okay, like Barbie is out on this like grand adventure in space. She's like out of the
Uh-huh.
picture, and it's up to this other group of characters to come to the rescue. And I'm like, okay, you can actually do something with this story. A Barbie story that's not 100% focused on Barbie and sees someone else like as the main character. There's
Like a
something
love
here.
interest, 100%.
Yeah.
The first few Barbie movies, they did center around some kind of love interest, there was a little romance on the side. But I think they've really evolved away from that with like Three Musketeers, with Starlight Adventure, with superhero Barbie. So I love that they, stay committed to the real reason Barbie was created, and that was to move away from, the little baby toys that reaffirm traditional gender roles in girls, like the baby, the kitchenette, those kinds of things. And yeah, they really stuck to the true purpose of Barbie, and that was to inspire young women to reach for the stars, and they can be whatever they want to be, away from this patriarchal bubble that they've grown up in. Yes, it's amazing to fall in love and to experience those things, and you can experience those things one day. But that's not all of it. You can just go out there and be what you want to be and achieve everything your little heart desired.
Yeah, it's definitely that the idea that you know Barbie can be anything leans into that message of like women as a whole can be anything, but there's just like the problem, like the teenage girl points out like the issue with that, like oh yeah, like you try to present this image like the teenage girl can be anything. What you're really saying is that the girl can be anything as long as like she's looks like you. That's you know that's the
No,
main. Yeah.
100%. As I said before, that there were big issues with lack of diversity in Barbie and the dolls and the whole play sets and those kind of things. I think they did evolve from that, and I think they could, develop a bit more, create more diversity, create more, opportunities for women and that kind of thing. But I think that they're at a good steady pace. Like the other day, I saw a fat Barbie and a Barbie in a wheelchair, and I even saw a buff Barbie. So look at that.
Barbie in a wheelchair. Bold choice.
Yes. Okay. Barbie should include disability representation. Okay. Because there are women out there that are born with disabilities or happen to be disabled in life. And they too are incredible women who are capable of many things. They're mothers, they're workers, they're responsible members of our society that help us run. And yeah, they should definitely be represented, including Black women and Muslim women and all the women that make up our world.
You mentioned like representation for everybody. What are your thoughts on Midge?
On Midge.
Yes, pregnant Barbie. Just
I think it was a bit controversial when it first came out because, what are you teaching little girls that they should be, getting pregnant and making that their goal in life? So I think that, yeah, okay, and like the playhouse and things were things that were, centered around baby and taking care of a baby. I think that pregnancy is a very real experience that women around the world experience. And I feel like they could have added to her character, make her a pregnant doctor, make her a pregnant lawyer, because there are many women out there that are pregnant, that are still holding down the fort with their jobs, with their homes. They're superwoman, and yes, that as well is an unfair standard to expect pregnant women to fulfill all these roles, and then praise them for that sacrifice. It should not be that much of a sacrifice, and the Constitution can really do some work with that. But yeah, so I think that it can be controversial, but I think that it's important to represent natural processes that women go through, like menstruation, like pregnancy. It doesn't have to be really sexualized or really explicit, but I think that is important for young women to be educated on those things and understand their options in life.
oh, exactly. I mean, that's the thing is the one of the pitfalls of this film, like when it has the Midge character, but she's just a living reference more than anything. It gives her nothing to do. She's literally just there for the audience to be like, oh hey, there's the
Yeah,
discontinued
they could have been a bit more
Barbie.
character development with that, with the queer Kens, one earring Ken, which was a popular queer signal, back in the day where people wanted to avoid getting arrested. Because,
Hays
they used
Code.
to arrest and do unseatful things to gay people back in the day. But anyway, yeah, I think there could have been a bit more character development with that. But I understand that they were trying to fit a whole lot like a whole world, a whole universe into one. How long was it? Like an hour and something movie. So, I think they tried their best. They could have done a bit better, but overall, they did a good job. And yes, we would have liked to see a bit more development for those characters. And I love that they really spent their time with Alan a bit more than some of the other characters. Yeah, no, he was a cool guy. I love him and what he represents. So, yeah, it's unfortunate.
In regards to Alan, I just like wondered something like, okay, there's a plethora of Barbies, each with their own Ken. So, and Alan is Ken's friend. So, my question is this: if like, wouldn't there, since there's a bunch of Kens, shouldn't there also be a bunch of Allens? Shouldn't each Ken have their own Allen?
Okay, well,
No.
I think
Wait,
we
wait,
can
wait, wait, wait,
answer
wait, wait.
this.
Like I thought like
I'm
this
very
was a
salty, by the
plot
way.
hole or something, but in
Okay, so
actuality,
Adam's
there's
a
an
character that
explanation
doesn't
for
really
it. If you'd
fit with
hold the
the
fuck up, there's
Barbies.
an
He doesn't fit
explanation
like
for
them.
why.
He's a background character. He exists outside those two groups. But he really shows, compassion towards everybody. He understands what women go through, and I think he represents that there are men in this world that understand the challenges that women go through. They see that and they try to help us as much as they can, but there's too few of them to actually fight against this patriarchy. And yeah, I think Alan also represents what men could be. A lot of men grow up into this world and they look at toxic masculinity and like toxic patriarchal standards that men have. They're like, okay, I don't really fit into that, but I'm not gay, I'm not attracted to other men, or I'm not into that other category. I'm so attracted to women. So, like, what am I? Where do I fit in? And yeah, and the whole point is they don't fit in anywhere. Nobody fits in. We're all just individuals. And that's what he represents, what men could be. And that's not this robot that the patriarchy, intends to make this emotionless, success-driven person who doesn't really, care about things like family and, those kinds of things that are rather woman-centered. He can be an individual.
Personally, what I was talking about was that there seems to be only one Alan amongst a sea of Kens.
That's right. There is only one Alan, and that's how we have to see it. Just like there's one Leto, just like there's one Ken out there. Okay, there's many Kens, but they're all individuals, and they need to strive to become individuals by going out there, finding out what they want in life, what are their core values, what makes them tick, to become great individuals who are confident and secure in themselves. And that's the message that Alan gives out, that men could be this.
As I was saying, there is only one Alan, and there's an explanation for that. I pointed out, like, there's a bunch of Kens, surely there should be a bunch of Allens. And there's a reason why there's only one Alan. They even say in the movie, like, so it's not a mistake that there's only one Alan. Michael Cera's character explains that the, like, in sync is a bunch of Allens. Like, they're all Allens. Like, he's like, yes, even that one. Which meant that at one point, each Ken must have had his own Allen, but at either unanimously or as time went on, they all decided to up and leave Barbie Land, and they just went out living in the real world. So like, and Michael Cera's Allen is just the one Allen left.
True.
Yeah, that's.
But like, I understand why they left too. Like, who wants to be there with all the Kens?
Yeah, not a whole lot going on for Alan in that world.
Yeah, I
Alan
mean,
is just
like,
Alan.
the Kens are all insecure and they don't have, individuality and personality, and like, Allens are just there with their flamboyant selves. Like, energy just doesn't match.
not a fan of, like, I loved that beach off at the end where all the Kens were like seemingly like battle singing against each other, and then it just converged. They all ended up converging into one song where they, instead of singing against each other, they're now singing with each other. And by the end of it, I'm like, wait a minute, the whole plan was to get them to fight. I'm like, I think the plan is backfiring because they're not fighting now. Now they're just working against each other. The opposite of what was trying to be achieved is happening here. But in reality, it didn't matter because the plan was never to have the Kens destroy each other. The plan was just keep them busy while we get back into power and everything. So, like, that worked. But, you
Yeah,
know.
they kind of dumb. I don't know. They kind of let their egos blind them, you know.
Yeah. But I'm just like when like Ken was playing that Nickelback song and Barbie stood up to like go see what Simu Lu Ken was doing, and then all the other Barbies stood up to go see what the other Kens were doing. I'm just thinking like surely one of them is gonna be like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, why are they all? But like, not a single one of them thought anything was wrong. Everybody was just like, oh, okay. Like, it wasn't until Ken pointed it out when they were all sitting in that Mojo Dojo Casa houses that like something is up here.
Amazing name, by the way.
Uh,
Whoever thought that up, you know, they had rent you. That's what I'm gonna say.
you translate that, you're just really saying, like, if you say welcome to my Mojo Dojo Casa house, you're just saying welcome to my Mojo house. Just, just saying.
Basically.
Whatever. I laughed in the third act when Ken thought that he and Barbie were having a like a secret conversation on the second floor, and he totally forgot that the houses don't have walls. Everyone in the street saw
Oh, I
everything.
hated that scene, you know? I really hated that scene.
What?
But not because of that. It's because, like, okay, Ken went into the real world. He saw the patriarchy. He was like, I'm gonna bring this to Barbie world, right? And as I said before, he basically tried to make a space for himself and the other Kens by taking it away from the Barbies instead of going out there and, you know, finding yourself. And he did this with no remorse for Barbie and what she would go through because, you know, he didn't really care. Women were just there to serve him and the other Kens. And at the end of all of that, when they had that conversation, Barbie was still expected to, you know, be his support system, you know, be his emotional support, encourage him through that, you know, to find who he was, to go out there and find some individuality. And that's, you know, it's very telling about how, you know, how things happen in the real world. Like, you know, men put us through so much pain. They take away our rights, they abuse us, and we still here are expected to provide them and, you know, comfort the blow. You know, comfort them and, you know, like you know, soften the blow about what they're actually doing to us, sorry. So it's like very telling. I like that little snippet they put there.
The way I see it is, dude, like you mentioned, dude did all this because he doesn't care how it would affect Barbie. Quite the contrary. The way I viewed it, he did it because he did care. He knew exactly what this would do to Barbie, and that's why he did it. Because, at bottom line, he was mad at her. Because he lays it all out like, you know, like he basically lays it out like there is no Ken without Barbie. He wanted Barbie. He wanted
Okay, he
Ken
did this
and
because he
Barbie,
loved
and
her,
Barbie
right?
was
But
just.
like, it doesn't show any love. His intentions were not overshadowed by love or care for Barbie. It was toxic. He put everything that he was into her. And because she didn't, you know, reciprocate that, he was like, F you. I'm going to take over your world. I don't give a fuck anymore. So yeah, it wasn't about he really didn't care about her. It was more of like a false love. It was more to do with him than her.
I disagree. It was a lot to do with her. He did this because, okay,
What did she do?
if you
She didn't
and
do
me
nothing.
aren't going to be a thing, then I'm going to carve out a space for just me. And if, like, that me carving out a space for just me and others like me has to do with stomping out your space, then so be it. You know, like,
But
that
that's the thing.
moment
You
at
see,
the
that's
that
the difference
moment
between
once she comes back
the
and
Barbie
sees
land
that
and the real world.
Barbie Land is
Like,
different,
listen to me.
he's like,
Listen to me.
I
I
have a
think a lot
point
of people
here. I
say
do have
that
a
it's
point here
reverse
that you're not gonna
patriarchy,
hear
but
if
it
you cut
isn't.
me off.
Yes,
Jesus.
Barbie is
There's a moment
uplifted
when
in
Barbie and them
world.
shows up and he goes through his whole thing and like he's done with all that and he's like it calls back to the moment where she says it's girls' night and he says to himself it's always girls' night. And he in
But
after
what
showing
does
up
she
says
have
it's
a boys'
guys'
night?
night. It's
That's what I'm
always
saying.
guys' night. That little callback was basically him throwing back what she said. Like, he took what she said and he threw it back in her face. It's like he didn't say it, but he wanted her to know like now you
No.
know how
She
I
was making
feel.
a point.
Like he wanted her
The
to
point
know how
is
he felt.
that he was not oppressed in Barbie Land. He could go out there, he could carve a space for himself, but he chose not to. He chose to put all his self-worth and who he was as a person in Barbie and what she was doing with her life and how she perceived him. That was his little issues. Okay, no one told him to do that. She was out there, she was living her life. She did have a relationship with Ken, but it wasn't the main focus. And he had freedom to do that, but yeah, it just shows like how men react to women in their lives, you know, going out there and making something for themselves that doesn't really include them. That's like such a male reaction. And it didn't have anything to do with love. It's just he doesn't happen to be the center of the world. Like how she is to him.
Quite again, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that. This isn't just a man thing. People react like that in general when they
Okay, fine,
discover
it is a
that
people thing,
when they
100%.
discover that in the
If
relationship they're the one who cares most and it seems like the other person could care less, it's going to change them. Your love would become
It's not
spite at that
healthy
point.
though. It's like, okay, like let's look at you and me. We are both friends, right? But we have our own lives. We don't have no expectations of each other. You message me, I message you sometimes. And he's like, I don't know. He's like always messaging her, and she's like, I'm gonna message you when I have time, and when I don't, you know, like have this life badgering down on me. And he's just, you know, there. And it is a sad thing. I'm not saying that I don't have any empathy for him. It is a suckish thing to put who you are, you know, and what you think about yourself into another person and everything, you know, that they do, that they say, and what they think of you is how you see yourself. That's a horrible thing. It's a toxic thing. But at the end of the day, who do you have to blame? Yourself. Because you did that to yourself. You put all your hopes and dreams and identity into another person.
Well, yeah, it could be read that way,
I mean,
but the
I understand
man
that because that's a
actually.
big thing that a lot of women go through. You know, like women are expected to be housewives, to be these nurturing people, to basically, you know, serve those around them, to create, you know, a little family unit and serve them. And it is hard when, you know, you as a woman put a lot of time and effort into your children and your husband, and they are out there, you know, going out there, creating their careers, building who they are as a person. And, you know, that whole thing about the working husband, you know, the housewife, and, you know, she's upset that, you know, he's not spending time with her. It's a suckish thing. But again, that is because of patriarchy. created that dynamic between women. In Barbie land, there was no system that oppressed Kens or told you that you can just be this. They had the freedom to do whatever they wanted to do.
He explains at the end, or if it's not him, then it is explained at the end that that's the sole purpose for which he was made. Barbie was made, like Barbie's purpose in this film is to be Barbie, and being with Ken is a distant second. Whereas with Ken, his main purpose is to be with Barbie. Being Ken is a distant second. It's the other way around with him. That's why he takes it so
100%.
hard.
It's like the dolls, when they created the dolls, they created Ken as kind of a companion to Barbie. But he did start out that way. But as the company progressed, he did become more of an individual person, with a personality and hobbies and those kinds of things, as we see in the movies. So I guess you can see it like that. He was created for that purpose. But he could have done his own thing.
He did do his own thing. I'm starting to think we watched two different movies here.
He did his own thing by taking away another person's thing. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And that is synonymous with the real world. Men always do that. Women, as I've said, that men are in the position that they are in today because they stepped on the backs of women to get there. Women were...
Thing is, the movie kind of tries to paint Ken as the bad guy, but then it's revealed that once he found out what a patriarchy actually was and how little it had to do with horses and whatnot, he actually didn't enjoy this. He wasn't enjoying what he was doing. It just was something he was doing out of spite. He was mad at Barbie, and he took that anger out on everybody else.
I mean, very man of him. But 100%. I watched this video the other day, and do you know who Xuxiao is?
Oh?
Okay, you don't know him, Xuxiao. He's basically a diluted version of Andrew Tate. He says horrible things about women and queer people alike, okay?
That sounds like regular Andrew Tate, but okay.
Yeah. And basically, these young boys came up to him. They asked for a picture, and right afterwards, they were like, "Oh, fuck women, yeah."
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I saw it on TikTok. It was hilarious. Oh, damn.
And this reminded me of Ken, right? Because I feel like I don't, men grow up in this world. They're brought into this world. They don't really understand the patriarchy and what it does to women, and that they are benefiting from it. They don't understand the struggles of women, and that just speaks to Ken and what happened. He had a very warped thinking of the patriarchy, about horses and stuff like that. He literally didn't have a solid sense of it, but he still wanted to enact it. And it's this video of Xuxiao and these children basically just reminded me of how Ken perceived the patriarchy and then brought it to the Barbie world. It was very immature, it was very, diluted.
From Ken's perspective as a character, when he arrived in Barbie world, where he was, mentally, he was just accompanying Barbie. And the first time he was allowed a chance to do something by himself and go out and, he encounters a world where it seems like, hey, men have all the power here. Men can do whatever they want. This is a great world. That's how it seems. He doesn't fully grasp what it really is until he tries to enact it. And he even admits, like I said earlier, he admits that, once he found out what patriarchy really was, he wanted nothing to do with it. But this isn't full on patriarchy. This is Ken's take on patriarchy. Like what he basically cribbed what he liked about it and he distanced himself from what he didn't. Because the women, yes, the women were serving the man and they weren't in Supreme Court anymore. They weren't running things, but largely they weren't being oppressed to such a degree that they would be in the real world. They were being
Just didn't have
oppressed.
a semblance of who they were anymore.
Yeah, they
So
didn't.
I would call that, a bit, severe.
Yeah,
But like, I get you. He, as you said, he took the aspects of patriarchy that he liked and that he resonated with. But like, as I'm saying, the real world and what men do to women, what the patriarchy does to women is not resonated in Barbie Land. And I think that makes, the a big difference about it, like, men are not actively oppressed in Barbie Land. They rather don't have any, point or put. They have a very they're putting everything they are into Barbies and how they match with Barbies. So I get that. Yes, that is toxic. That is horrible. It's a horrible situation for you to put everything that you are into another person. But again, they do not have that system that is oppressing them and that's telling them that they can't be this, that they can't, create a space for themselves, which women actively have to face every single day, We weren't allowed to work. The only space reserved for us was, in the home. And again, it wasn't even for us. It was how we could serve others in this place. So, yeah. I don't think, it's the same. And a lot of people are painting it as the same, as a kind of reverse sexism, but it really isn't. And what Ken brought to Barbie Land was way severe than what Barbies were doing to Kens at the beginning. You get me?
the film in Barbie Land was essentially a what if reality of our world. It's like, what if the world ran on a matriarchy instead of a patriarchy? What would it look like? And the reason
But
Ken
I
was
don't think
able to take over
accurate
so
representation
easily
of that.
is because he basically, what essentially Ken did was go to a group of men who had been living under a matriarchy all their lives and basically saying, hey, there is another way to live. Like, you take people who've been living one way and showing them another way to live that seemingly from the way you pitch it to them makes them like better than the way they are. He's basically saying your life is good, but it can be better. You can be more. There can be so much more you can do. Like, you can be great. There's all this stuff. You just have to live in this way that's different from the way you were living before.
I mean, at the end of the day, that message that you're saying is a great message, that there is another way to love, that you can be so much more than what you are now. But that doesn't mean that you have to accomplish that by, taking power away from another person. And that's what Ken basically did to the Barbies. He took away who they were. They were basically brainwashed robots that literally just served the Kens. Like they didn't know what they were doing. They probably didn't know what they were talking about. And, when that whole speech happened, when, the mother was like, giving her little similar speech, she was like, waking them up to who they were. But, so, yeah, I just feel like it's not the same severity.
Yeah. The
But, like, honestly, like, a trope I hate that I see a lot more is reverse sexism, but women are just doing the same things to men. And I find that just completely unrealistic and just, like far-fetched. Because, like, I remember, like, in college we did The Power. Remember that book?
Yep.
Yeah, it was basically about how women got, electric powers and then they were using it to control men. And I just feel that women would never never do that if they happen to be in a position of power. And in many instances that I've seen this, like more empathetic, would show more love and grace towards other human beings because women for centuries have been giving up who they are. They they're very fiber of their being for the people around them in for love, for their children, for their husbands with ambitions to ensure those ambitions happen. So I think that it would be a very different world, and I hate that trope, like I really do. And I feel like people were trying to bring that trope into Barbie, and they were like, "Yeah, you see what Barbie Land is doing to men, and what position they're bringing men in." And I just think it's unfair to say that because, yeah, we know what men have actually done to women, and Barbie Land is a far cry from that.
In regards to the film's ending, that everybody essentially gets a happy ending. It's not the stereotypical happy ending of Barbie ends up with Ken and they live happily after whatever. It's an ending of they each
Amazing.
get their own ending separate from each other. Like Ken is shown like, dude, you can be just Ken. You don't have to be Ken and Barbie. You are enough as you are, and Barbie gets to go out and live in the real world, do her own thing, as shown by the ending with the I'm here to see my gynecologist or whatever. That is an ending that's good, but not before seeing this montage of all the little girls who played with Barbies and all the like as they grow up and become women. It's not just little girls, but it's like teenagers and grown women, and it's a rather beautiful scene that the
It
movie.
was an amazing scene.
Yeah,
I love that they added it in because it really shows you like how women are in the different stages of their life, and it really makes you think about the women in your life, like your mothers and your grandmothers, and what they had to go through in life. Like as women, it made me aware that yes, I've been through these struggles in life. I was forced to leave, this perfect childhood, this naive childhood, and go into this real world where I'm facing so many challenges. But yes, my mother also had to do that. My granny also had to do that, and they definitely, faced worse challenges than me, and were hindered by these challenges, so that I could have better opportunities than them. It was a really heartwarming scene, and I love that they ended it with that, before the gynecology curveball.
also John Cena plays a mermaid in this movie. I don't know if you noticed that. Just
I love this actually, and I love that his wig was better than Dua Lipa's.
yeah,
They really went all out for him. They were like, "We're gonna get you. We're gonna get you the stuff, John
certainly.
Cena. We're gonna make you look. Gonna be the best looking mermaid out there."
Absolutely.
He
I,
really got the good stuff.
a part of me did want to see like, hey, which is it's weird because like we see him in the beginning in the everything is perfect scene in Barbie Land, but like we don't see him in the Ken world. Like a part of me was wondering like, what would he be up to? What would Merman John Cena be up to in this like Ken world? Because he seemed pretty cool with everything as it was. So like I get that we do get like the one guy who isn't cool with this new reality in Alan, but it would have been interesting to have this moment of like it's not just one dude. It's not just this like token good guy. There are other men in here who aren't happy with the way things have changed, and to have like John Cena's Merman be that guy, it would have been interesting, but
I
I
guess
can
that would
yeah.
have been a good opportunity, seeing as he is a bit different from the other Kens.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, this movie does have its faults. What can I say?
There's cast members from Sex Education in this show. Um, Otis's friend and his boyfriend from that show, they're in here. Uh, I don't know if, whatever. They in here too. Like, Otis's friend was the black guy with blonde hair and the goatee.
It was so weird seeing him with a goatee, though. I must say, like, okay. Moving on.
It was a really good cast, though. They really included as many people as they could. I love that they had different women of all different sizes and all different ethnicities. So that was great because again, they promoting the message that Barbie can be any woman out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cast was like 10 out of 10, and Michael Cera, John Cena, all of them, even Dua Lipa. I loved it.
Though, of all the choices that they could have made, I'm like, of all the people they could have had do the song, they went with Nicki Minaj. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying,
She's
that's
the
an interesting
OG
choice.
Barbie girl. Let me tell you this, okay? They could have never made a better choice than that. Nicki Minaj. Okay, I get Ice Spice, they wanted to add maybe a new fresh voice into it, because it's like a new Barbie movie. But the fact that they put Nicki Minaj, they gave her the song was amazing. It was iconic.
I would have gone with Billie Eilish, but hey, that's just me.
Oh, well, Billie Eilish was in it. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, the music in Barbie was iconic. Obviously, they had the OG Barbie anthem, and then they had Billie Eilish's song. I forgot what it was called.
Yeah, it plays
What was
at
I
the
meant
end.
for?
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but it plays at
And
the
I
end.
think
Yeah.
that's a great message. What was I meant for? It's a lot of it's a question that a lot of girls contemplate in their lives. They're like, okay, I'm born into this world where I'm expected to fill in this traditional female role where I'm serving men and I basically live for the benefit of men. So what am I meant for?
Yeah.
Am I ever going to get a chance to go out there and live my own life and find out who I am and who I want to be? So it's a great song.
Though I am dismayed we didn't get the closest thing we got to the I'm a Barbie Girl song was a sample at the end. At the literal end credits there was this little sample. There was a warped sample of that
Oh, that's
song. And it was
because
like, no!
the original group that sang that song had issues with Mattel back in the day.
Still though, man, the
But
song is
I'm happy that
iconic.
they still put it in there. They were like, we can't make a Barbie movie without the Barbie anthem.
Yeah.
Literally, most of us, when I was younger, when I was a little girl, I used to sing that song. It was iconic, and it still is iconic, and it deserved to be in this movie. So I'm happy that they tried to cut corners and do a few swerves to get in the movie, even though it wasn't the OG song. But I think that Nicki Minaj and Ice Spice, they add a little modern twist into it, So that was cool.
And I speaking of that song, I laughed when they referenced it in the Flash, right before older Barry and young Barry are about to go into battle against Zod and his crew. Older Barry's like, "Come on, Barbie," and then younger Barry's like, "Let's go party," and they both zoom off. I thought that was pretty funny, but I was kind of there was that moment in the Barbie movie where the Barbie who could write was like, it was like I woke from a dream where I was really invested in the Snyder cut. I'm like, that was cause of much consternation online. That line, people were mad for some reason. uh,
To each their own, I guess.
but yeah. Anyway, to wrap it all up, everything up, how would you rate this movie? Because I give it a 10 out of 10. It is the second 10 out of 10 movie
You
I've
read my
seen this
mind.
year. What would you say?
100% it was a 10 out of 10. Of course, they did have their own faults. I think that they could have, done a few things better, like some character development with some of the characters. It was just more like they appeared in the movie just for appearance's sake instead of actually playing a role in it. And of course, Weird Barbie, we all had a Weird Barbie growing up. I did horrendous things to mine. She's traumatized. She's literally walking in Barbie land with another head from something. I forgot what it was. But anyway.
There was this
But
joke.
yeah, it's
There was this joke I saw online that Barbie, that the reason that Barbie looks that way is because she's basically Cynthia from the Rugrats.
uh,
It makes sense. Think about it. Think about it. Like, why is she so weird? Why is she always like got this messed up hair and everything? And I'm like, it would make sense that the girl playing with her would basically be Angelica. Like, it does feel like, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, that doll went through some stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just think it was an iconic movie. It spoke into feminist theory, and it didn't just, speak on feminist themes for, diversity's sake or, just for that diversity token. It was created for women, by women, to talk about issues that women face in today's world and how we can hopefully move on from that. Because, at the end of the day, the patriarchy hurts both men and women, and that's how it is. Unfortunately, men refuse to, accept that because, the benefits certainly outweigh the consequences. But, yeah, so I think it's definitely a movie that anybody should see. Not children, though, because I don't think children would understand the deeper themes, and they would go into it with a more, it's going to be about Barbie and glitter and pink, those kind of expectations. But I think that anybody can benefit from watching the movie, and yeah, it's a great movie. 10 out of 10. Would work again.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that the movie was able to put forth a message of pro woman without being anti male. Take notes, directors of Charlie's Angels. Anyway, that's all I gotta say on that.
By the way, I just want to say something that most of the anti-men, post-feminist, literature, depictions in cinema were created by men because that's how they view the feminist movement and feminists in general as an opposition to men. And I'm not saying that, of course, there are women out there with extreme views, and some very abusive and hurtful opinions of men. But, on the whole, I think the feminist movement has really, tried to be inclusive. As it's not just about women and, fighting for our rights, but for equality for all. And this movie really encompassed that message.